Preview of the upcoming Liftoff Financial Educator Marketing Coaching Program. This is a program that combines 4 days of intensive training from January 9th through the 12th with weekly and monthly support meetings to help you create a 1-year financial educator marketing plan and to use it to grow your business in 2024. So you can go ahead and go to horsesmouth.com/liftoff to find out more and sign up. And I'll actually put that on the screen with a QR code for you there for a little while. And in today's session, we're going to be focusing on session 3 of the program, which is entitled In-Person Event Planning, Marketing, Budgeting, and ROI, and also Direct Mail Marketing 101. So I am joined today by Sean Bailey, Horse's Mouth Editor-in-Chief and the leader of this coaching program. And Sean, let's go ahead and kick things off by focusing on the in-person event planning for financial educators. You know, what are the key elements that advisors need to understand about in-person event planning to make their education sessions more effective and appealing?
Yeah, thanks, Doug. Well, the key thing about in-person events also applies to webinars as well, because we're putting our energy into marketing an event, and we'll talk about the marketing later. But in terms of the event planning, there are a lot of things that need to happen from the time the marketing launches to the time the event starts. Okay, and what's required of the advisor and his or her team, and or to some degree, some services that you can leverage through some vendors, is a clear process of what happens after somebody accepts your invitation to come to the event, okay? Because they're like, basically, probably 4 big parts to an educational event. There's figuring out the marketing. There's the launching of the marketing and getting responses, okay? Then there's putting on the event. Then there's the post-event follow-up to get people to actually accept your invitation and then get them to come in, right? So in terms of planning, it's really about, and this is what we go into in depth in the Financial Educator Marketing Coaching Program, is you need to have a system to follow. So suppose you are putting on an in-person event. Maybe it's a dinner seminar, maybe it's at the local library. People get your invitation, they go to the registration page, or they call into a phone number, your office, or maybe a service provided by a mail house vendor if you're using direct mail and you're leveraging that aspect of their service, right? So people call, people say, yes, I want to come. Great. You've got their name and their contact information. They hang up, or they leave the information with the call center, or they leave it on a voicemail. What happens then? Because the event may be 2 weeks away, 10 days away, 5 days away, 2 days away. You've got to have in place a system so that you're getting if it's 2 weeks out and you're doing an in-person event, you're going to want to have a pre-prepared letter that you're going to mail to the attendee to remind them, hey, thanks for coming. Looking forward to seeing you next Thursday on the 23rd. Just a reminder again that what the event is and where it's located. Really looking forward to seeing you. Okay, that's print. That's sent in the mail. You're also going to send an email that says the same thing. You're going to probably want to have either yourself or somebody on your team actually call and confirm that they're coming a day or two before you want to put out phone calls. Some advisors are using text services as well. And during the registration process, a person may put their mobile in and be happy to get that. And so you see that what is really happening is from the moment somebody accepts your invitation, the top advisors who succeed the most in this area as financial educators start treating the registrants for their event kind of like they're a client. They have people on the staff who are calling, making connections, looking forward to seeing you, ultimately greeting them when they show up in person. And so you can see there's like 5, 6, 7 steps along the way after they've accepted your marketing. So you've done good marketing, you've gotten them to act, they've become registered, but you still have to put the gentle, consistent pressure on to make sure that they actually show up, okay? There's a whole bunch of things that happen when you put on the presentation, but the key thing at the end is your close, where you're offering them an opportunity to come in and meet you. Some will accept right away, some will want to wait a little bit, but regardless, after the event there is also 4 or 5 steps of things that you're going to do: sending a thank you letter, placing a phone call to everybody who attended, placing a phone call to the folks who didn't show up, who said they were going to come, and then confirm, and then as you touch on who have said, yes, I want to come in for an appointment, you're going to confirm that the date and time, and that they understand other things that need to be sent to you, because many advisors require information before the meeting so that they can have a more productive meeting. Some collect it at the actual first meeting. It just depends. But the point is that there are these, crucial steps both before the event and after the event. And you have to have that all worked out. It's not overwhelming. There's many advisors, one advisor with an assistant, whatever, who are able to do this. And then there's, of course, other advisors that have bigger teams and they put on a lot of events and they've really built their internal practice management muscles around this stuff. But it's very organized, it makes sense, and you just have to have the system in place with your team to make it happen. And when you do that, you're going to get the greatest impact. You're going to get more people coming, and you're going to get more people ultimately accepting your invitation and actually coming into your office to start a conversation. And that's where the relationship really begins.
And you think it's fair to say that most advisors put most of their attention on the event itself and some on the marketing, but not enough on the marketing and certainly not enough on the follow-up stage?
Well, in the Financial Educator Marketing Coaching Program, I tell a story one time. It was about 5 or 6 years ago. We had an advisor call us up and say, I used your marketing materials and people came to this Social Security event, and I think it was very well. We actually put on 2 in 1 week. But then when I got to, having the follow-up appointments and everything, it's like I had 0 people. And we're like, what? 0 people? What's going on? Let's get on the phone and have a conversation. This early part was by email. So we get on the phone with the fellow, and it turns out, yeah, his team got organized, put on these 2 events. It was kind of like in June. And guess what? After the 2 events were over, he and his wife went on a trip to London for a week or 10 days. Then he came back from London and he started calling people to make the appointments. And it just didn't work. Too much time had passed. That's why you got to, part of your system needs to be strike while the iron is hot, meaning when people are there participating in your event, that is when you want to give them the most opportunities to accept your invitation and go ahead and schedule something. So it is, you really need to be all on the front end and on the back end. It's really an equal effort on both sides. Yes, and you're right. Some people have thought it's all about putting on the presentation. Like people are going to be so charmed by your abilities to present this thing that, they're just going to want to absolutely come in. And whenever you come, I just tell them. It doesn't really work that way, fortunately.
Okay, so this kind of sets up the next question, which is you got to do more in way of marketing the event, but that could mean more cost. So how does an advisor, balance their budget constraints with that need for more and more effective marketing?
Yeah, so, it is an interesting question, and part of it is based on, what your goals are, right? I've literally interviewed, more than 100 financial advisors over the last 5 or 6 years on how they put on their educational events. And let me tell you, it's quite amazing the diversity that exists. If we said it was an ecosystem, it was like a rainforest of financial advisors. There's all sorts of different. And so, that is very interesting. And they're doing it in different ways for different goals that they're trying to achieve. and for different budgets that they're willing to put into the program, right? So in some cases, you have an advisor who is only interested in adding maybe 5 million in new AUM in the next year. No, I shouldn't say only, but 5 million. And for purposes of conversation like this, we typically say, all right, a client that you ultimately acquire from your activities is going to have, let's say, 500,000 in AUM, right? So an advisor that that's shooting for 5 million, I've seen they may have 2 campaigns in the spring, so it's maybe or even 1.5 campaigns. What do I mean by a campaign? Usually, 2 events, sometimes a third event per campaign. And so you may have somebody who puts on, 1 campaign in the spring, maybe say 1 campaign in the winter, another one in the spring, 1 in the fall, maybe it amounts to, 4 or 5 events over the course of the year. If that's their goal, that's great. You're going to try and figure out what can, if you're going to add 5, if your goal is to add 5 million in new AUM, and you're going to pull, 1% fee from that. So that's your projected revenue in the coming year. And say you're going to get, 8 or 10 clients, then you're going to have an idea of how much you're going to make. And then you can decide, do I want to spend $5,000 or $6,000, per campaign 2 or 3 times a year to use direct mail to get people to come in? Or do I want to spend less and maybe just do some social media marketing, or maybe just strictly off of my email list? So it kind of, it depends, the budgeting constraints. And then you have, it's like, okay, you're trying to achieve relatively modestly challenging, but highly achievable. And then there's some advisors that are looking to, add 20 million or more in new AUM. And they're planning on putting on a dinner seminars, and they're going to do a couple a month. And so they're going to do, January, February, March, and April. They'll already have done 8 before they even get to May. And then they may do some more over the spring and summer and do a big push again in the fall. So they may put on 12, 15 events, okay? And so they know, when you've committed to putting on 12 or 15 events, you're only doing it because you have already been out in the field. You're not going from 0 to putting on 15 events a year. You've got comfortable with the material. Your team understands the things that we were just talking before about the in-person event planning and the kinds of stuff that needs to happen before and after the event. And you're getting good at it, and your team has the ability to metabolize bringing on, new prospects and converting them into clients, and then all the follow-up work that's related to onboarding a client, okay? And when you have those systems in place and you've got the right topic and you've got your audience targeted, then, some advisors realize, okay, we've got this down, and, I just did 5 million last year and we put on 6 events or whatever the case may be. And next year I'm going to shoot for 15 million, and we're really going to step this thing up. We're going to do dinner seminars, or whatever the case may be. We're going to do more of them. And so you see, the budget is dependent on what your goals are. All right. And so when it comes to balancing the constraints, there are some advisors who are willing to put the money in for a dinner event and for effective direct mail marketing. Then there are other advisors who don't want to do anything like that at all. They want to they just want to go someplace and have the people there, and they want to speak, and then they want to leave and hope that they get business from that. That's kind of like, what's kind of called the sort of, bring your own. It's like the audience is already there. It's usually like a professional organization that's looking for a speaker. So the advisor comes in, speaks, and, you get some results there. But that's kind of on one end. And then all the way on the other end are the dinner events. And then there's a variety of intermediate approaches along the way, like libraries or like church halls. And they all have varying degrees of associated marketing costs and also effectiveness too, right? I mean, if I was starting off my business right now, I would do dinner events, even though when I came into this business 20 years ago, there's a lot of trash talk about dinner events and this whole thing about get liquors, blah, 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 which you really think is foolish. But if I was coming in, I would be doing dinner events because, believe it or not, folks, they work. They absolutely work. My goal, if I was trying to build my business right now, would be to get the systems in place and understand my target market, get a good relationship going with a mailhouse vendor, and start putting on those dinner events because, they work.
Okay, so when it comes to turning a critical eye on your events and the marketing that you did for them, what are the key metrics that you think advisors should focus on when they are measuring the ROI of their in-person events, and why are these metrics so important?
Right. Well, of course, in the end, the key metric is the one we're going to be discussing. How much AUM have you brought on during the course of your campaign? But you're absolutely right. There are other metrics, such as how many. One metric is if you're going to use direct mail, how much how much are you spending on the direct mail? How many registrations are you getting? Okay, you get a registration, you've got the contact info. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to show up, but nonetheless, so that is part of your ROI, part of a dividend that you're getting from your marketing efforts, because building your base of contacts. I've just seen this so many times. There's going to be lots of people who are going to come to your event, and they're going to like what they hear, but they're not ready to act for any variety of reasons, including timing. Like, people are going to start seeing leading edge Gen Xers come to retirement presentations now. It's already starting to happen. They're 57, 50, but they're not going to apply to security. Maybe they're still working, whatever the case may be. So they'll come in sometimes years later, and I know it sounds crazy, but it's absolutely true. I've heard it and seen it time and time again. And so what's going on there is you're building this long tail. You're building your data, building your email list, because ultimately your email list becomes the most effective marketing tool you have over time. So anyway, that's one metric. The other metric will be, of a number of people who accepted the invitation to your event, how many of them actually showed up, okay? Because that will be an indication of how well you and your team are doing on the front end in terms of the pre-event follow-up after the registration has been made. And so that's a metric you're following. Then the other metric will be, okay, so we have 25 people here at the presentation, and say it's 15 households, say 10 couples and 5 single people. So out of that 15 households, how many of them are going to accept your offer for an invitation, accept your offer for a meeting? How many people are going to schedule a meeting? All right, so that's a number. You got possibly 15. A lot of people do 50%. Some advisors are great. They do almost 100%. Some are lousy because they're making a lot of mistakes along the way and they get 2 or 3. But that's a metric right there. How many say they want to come in? All right. Then the next metric is going to be how many actually come to your event. All right. Not to your event. How many actually come to the follow-up meeting? Right. That's different from the number who said they want to come, and that'll be an indication of how well you're doing with your post-event follow-up, staying in contact, working with them, making sure they know when the meeting is, and that they've provided you with the materials that you need in advance of the meeting, etc. Right? And then, of course, how many of them actually bridge to a second meeting and ultimately, second meeting or more, and ultimately become a client? So then that is also another metric. And all of this fits together. And, some advisors are very religious about tracking all this, and I've met other advisors who like they're not tracking any of it other than clients. That's just their own personal style. But that's the key. That's the key thing when you're looking at your return on investment is you can slice it 5, 6 different ways. And like I said, again, there's even another metric there too, and that's just the general branding that's going on in your target zip codes, right? If you're using direct mail, you're putting on events. Not everybody's available next Thursday at 6 o'clock. They're very interested in your topic. They need a financial advisor, but the 2 dates that you've scheduled on your invitation, it's just not happening, right? but they know they've got a few years. They don't have to act right away. And so, maybe they'll accept their offer the next time. So there's a lot of things that you can look at there in terms of the ROI.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about direct mail marketing, because this comprises, a big part of session 3 of the Liftoff Financial Educator Coaching Program. So, can you just elaborate on, the role direct mail can play in a financial advisor's marketing, and what makes direct mail in particular such a valuable tool?
Yeah, so I would say that if you're really looking to build your business, so you're looking to add 10 million or more, the 5 million in AUM, you can maybe spend less. Maybe you don't need to do direct mail. But here's the key thing people need to understand. There's been a lot of talk about digital marketing over the years. And digital marketing is fine, but direct mail is great. Direct mail still works. Absolutely is the case. And the thing is, the mailhouse vendors that have the databases, that have the invitations, the different formats of the invitation, the understanding of locations in your area, they've got all the data because they've been doing it for a while. And so the role, it can be very important, especially if you're looking to add big AUM numbers to your business. You really want to grow, and you've got the systems in place, and you've got the team there, and you've got the right topics, you've got horse's mouth support with the programs, then you're going to want to use direct mail because it simply works. And I was surprised when we started getting heavily into this 5 or 6 years ago. I began to realize that, particularly around the retirement topics like Social Security or taxes and retirement, that boomers were really interested in this topic. And so when you typically go out with a direct mail invitation, you're normally advertising 2 events at a time. Say this Tuesday at 8 o'clock and the following Thursday at 6 o'clock or whatever. Sometimes it's a Tuesday and a Thursday in the same week. And so here's the thing. You don't want 50 people showing up for your event. You really only want 25, 30 max. When your room gets bigger, you have more people there with them. Yes, they're hearing your presentation, but the room is big enough that it's almost like they're watching you on TV. The room is smaller, you're able to make deeper connections and get better acceptance of your invitation for that follow-up meeting. So you want to cap your attendance. But here's the thing, demand for these events are so strong that what you need to do when you schedule your 2 marketing, right, is that you need to have a 3rd date that you're holding in case the response rates are so good that you fill up very quickly. And it happens. I was very shocked when it happened the first time we were working with somebody like 5 years ago. Even though I'd been told, and I told him, hey, look, have that backup event all ready to go, because you never know that your invitation may be hitting a new group of people who've aged into their demographic, right? Like maybe there were a bunch of people who were 61 the year before, and you've been shooting at 62 to 70, and a big wave of them came in, and that stuff goes into the zip code, and you get a really good response rate. You need to be able to say, well, I'm sorry, we're filled up, but we have this 3rd date 2 Tuesdays from now. I'm going to put you on the wait list. Hope we can get you in. And everybody's like, oh, great, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then those ones are really the ones who are absolutely motivated to come because they feel like you've done them almost a favor. So you can see the direct mail is really, the other aspect of it is that because the formats have been used by these mailhouse vendors enough that they know what works. Okay, they also know locations. If you're doing the dinner events, they know where the better ones are. And so the direct mail piece really critical, really important. And we spend some time going into all the details relating to this in our Financial Educator Marketing Coaching Program. So yeah, that's what the program is all about. And we were talking today about session 3, I think, right?
Session 3. Yep.
So yeah, Doug, I think that kind of brings us to the end of today's session, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So great. So thanks for joining us. And if you want to learn more about the Liftoff Financial Educator Marketing Program, you can go to horsesmouth.com/liftoff. The link is also in the description wherever you are watching this, and you can use the QR code on the screen right here to go to that page to learn more and sign up. We'd love to have you in the program. And that's it.
Okay, everybody,
Thank you.
great.
Thank you, everybody. Have a
Hope
great
to see
rest of
you
your
then.
night.